Listen, I know what I look like to you, but I used to have a fiance. I was engaged to be married to a girl named Lizzie, but she broke up with me. Broke up with me because I gifted her a copy of Jailbreak, the studio album by Thin Lizzy, as an anniversary gift for our first date at PetSmart. She assumed that I was prodding at her for her weight problem. Really doesn't help matters that prodding is a technique that ranchers normally incorporate to move cows along in their own daily struggles. I first encountered my last girlfriend at a yard sale. Now, usually, at these things they sell you must-yield junk like foldable lawn chairs, garden gnomes, dime bags of the big H. That's my code name for the heroin substance. But this time around I saw an attractive young lady holding the display that we refer to as life. She was perhaps in her early 20s, freckles, cute smile, nice ass. She was holding a box of delicious Life cereal. The box top was still attached and was ripe for sending in along with proofs of purchase for adjacent Aldine Mini Hot Wheels. What a life. Hey, baby, I asserted, putting on my best sexy voice. Oh, she was enchanted by my irresistible looks and charming pickup line. She asked to be engaged to be married to me right on the spot. Now, in hindsight, I know that this is a little suspicious, as I haven't described to you what I look like as of yet, but the horrifying truth of the matter is that I no longer look like anything. More on this later. In the meanwhile, while we were making out and impressing the older gentleman, rummaging through baseball cards for Mickey Mantles and Home Run Baker, cards once adorned by originally flavored bubblegum stripes, I noticed something in the back pocket of her jeans. A bulge? After asking her if she was actually a man, not to judge, I don't mean it like that, sorry, I realized it was actually a VHS tape. Her arms were wrapped firmly around my neck, but I craned like an ostrich injected with special vitamins. And wouldn't you know it, I could make out half the title. The Lost Epis blank 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 Beaver, it said. Nerved, I asked her if there were any beavers in her family, and to my relief she said no. However, I couldn't help but be perplexed by why she would have a VHS tape in her pocket. On her way back to her place, I managed to use my stealth Bruce Lee-esque skills to swipe the VHS tape from her back pocket. Admittedly, it smelled kind of like ass, but as I mentioned previously, I really like her ass, and it's more of a pleasant fragrance to my nostalgic nostrils. As you may have guessed by now, it was indeed a lost episode of the Leave It to Beaver television program. I gaped in wonderment at my newfound glory, but as I was driving and had been taking my eyes off the road to read the spine of the tape, you may have guessed that we were in grave danger, and I do mean that literally. I guess it was fitting that my real name was George D. Jungle, because I didn't watch out for that tree. It was too late for the both of us. We'd moved on to the far plain. So, the Apostle Peter opened a big fat book, checked it for names, saw mine. It turned out that I was actually a pretty cool guy in real life, according to their rules, because I would donate to children. So he decided that I'd wake up in my hospital bed fully unharmed after all. However, the same could not be said for my then fiancée, Rutabaga. Well, she's dead, St. Peter proclaimed. The trees hit her in the ovaries, and there's nothing that can be done to fix that kind of a wreck. I shrugged it off, but in time I realized that I really did love her. It's amazing how you don't always recognize those things until it's too late. In her honor, I kept her as an imaginary friend. Her parents weren't cool with it, but again, they say that you marry the girl's parents too, and I'm not a polygamist, so fuck that shit. Let them say what they want. Waffles, hamsters, First National Bank, Neo-Templars. I'll say what I want. After awakening from the hospital bed, it was discovered that I had the VHS tape lodged up my ass. A sexy middle-aged nurse removed it and plopped it into my lap. After offering to dance on my lap, she also offered to put on the VHS tape while I waited for further medical treatment. What a doll. Admittedly, MTV was on and broadcasting a musical video by my favorite heavy rock and roll metal band of all time, Twisted Sister. But good things come to those who wait. Twisted Sister's Stay Hungry would always stay in my cassette tape collection, but this tape, I did not know how much longer I would be legally allowed to hold on to it. So I let Nurse Ratched put it on. The episode started as normal, the usual Leave It to Beaver theme song playing. Beaver, Beaver, they call him Beaver. He's a heck of a pal when he wields his cleaver. He cuts meat faster than you'd hang yours or bang yours. Hey, Beaver, Cleaver, you're the kind we adore. Hey, Beaver! Weird. The rhythm was slightly off, as if a white person sang it. I was not the LITB theme song that I remembered from watching the animated sitcom back in the 1980s, but I decided that I was okay with it and continued watching the tape. The first scene of the main part of the program showcased the Beaver family gathered at the breakfast table, eating cereal and orange juice and half slices of toast like an all-American family. The main difference from this and the usual program that I grew up with as a child was terrifying. The family all sat there in silence. The father was staring intently into his newspaper, or so I guess, since we couldn't see his face, as it had been covered by newspaper. The mother had a twisted, sinister smile on her face that looked totally contrived, as if she wasn't quite right in the head and wasn't actually happy, but trying to convince the viewing audience that she actually was. As for Beaver, his eyes were just, come on, I know you aren't going to believe me, and that's okay. I struggle to believe in myself sometimes, but they were gone, missing, moved. There were no ordinary eyes, or bulging eyes, or bloodshot eyes, but nothing. Disgusted, I threw up in my hospital bed, and Nurse Ratched came and threw some sawdust out of my lap, which was nice of her. Anyway, I was going to tell her to shut the program off until I caught sight of something. The main article of the newspaper. I can still see it now in my mind's eye. Size 36 point. Blood red, Times New Roman, a mix of emphasis, underline, and strong. Also called bold and obsolete browsers used back at the town library in 1957. What was really wrong was not the formatting. What was wrong is what the letters spelled out. THEYTOOKMYIs. They took my eyes in all capital letters. I considered giving up and going home, but remembering that my legs had been blown apart in the car crash, I realized I wasn't about to get up. Also, who's to say where home truly is? I continued watching the tape. The silent scene went on for another 7-8 minutes until the doorbell rang. Now, this was pretty weird because they didn't have doorbells back in the 1960s, but there was a doorbell and indeed it rung. "Come in," said the mother in a really hoarse voice that bothered me a little bit more. The doorknob twisted and then in came, well, who usually came in on the Leave It to Beaver television program. Eddie Haskell, Leave It to Beaver's best friend and next-door neighbor, came skateboarding into the house like a cool kid, wearing sunglasses and sporting a boombox on his shoulder. "Come and get your fix of the Limp Biscuit mix," he explained like a white person, popping Chex Mix cereal into his mouth and choking. Okay, it was pretty normal and wholesome family entertainment up until the choking, but Eddie Haskell choking on Chex Mix was pretty messed up. The next scene was also rather morbid and sinister. It was a funeral. We watch Eddie Haskell's casket get lowered into the ground while Leave It to Beaver cries to himself and his mother and father try to console him about his dead friend. Eddie would have wanted it that way, the father character comforted his son, popping Chex Mix into his mouth. Normally that would have been pretty normal, but even this family moment was rather loco in the cabeza. When Father Beaver tossed the Chex Mix into his mouth, he didn't just toss it into his mouth. He had a lengthy, slimy, salivy lizard tongue with engraved marks on it. And it caught the Chex Mix in midair while he gulped it down like a frog swallows a fly. I squinted at the screen some more, and to my horror, I noticed something. Something bad. The engravings, they spelled out, "We know what you did to our daughter, Randy." Randy? The tape knew my name. It's weird to say, but at this point I started to feel a sensation that you Americans tend to call guilt. But I wasn't a Leave It to Beaver character. There's no way that they knew about me back in the 1960s, or that I would eventually be born to German-American immigrants who simply wanted to be accepted and cooked up pretzels while on the boat to appease the Anglos who'd been living in this country for so long, considered to have been there since the time of colonization. There was no way this tape could know my name, but it did. Made no sense, but it did. Oh, well. Whatever. Just so you know, I gathered up the strength to continue watching, and I coughed up some blood from the accident, but also from my disgust of what was unfolding before my very eyes. 25 years had passed. Beaver was now at university and was studying what appeared to be advanced physics. E equals MC2, Beaver sighed to himself, perusing a quiz that he'd gotten a 92% on. 92% is a pretty good grade for a quiz, his classmate next to him asserted in response to his presumed buddy's achievement. Yeah, Beaver sighed. I bet he would have been proud of me. I shed a single teardrop caught up in the moment. I felt some sort of bonding between me and Beaver Cleaver, but I don't know why it would be that way. The next scene, to my surprise, was already the final scene even. It was a montage of moments. It showed Beaver graduating from college, getting engaged, married, impregnating his spouse, getting divorced, explaining to his kid that life is complicated while his kid tries to keep his parents together by using the Bible as a proof that divorce is not right in the Lord's eyes. Eventually, we see Beaver getting married and a funeral in which no one shows up. Finally, something that I could never have possibly imagined, and neither could you, occurred. You know how the world used to be in black and white before the big events of the 1960s turned us all into color? It happened on the television program. It suddenly happened. I always wondered when it happened, and it did right there. It turned into color. From black and white, from grayscale, the world turned into color at the exact moment that Beaver Cleaver's tombstone appeared on screen. The camera zoomed in closer and closer as we got a shot of his epitaph. Now, I know you're expecting something freaky and insightful, perhaps about eyes, but I couldn't make out what it said because it was in some sort of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic language. FML, I muttered to myself out loud, not realizing that someone might overhear it, which would have been embarrassing as I was not communicating inside of an AOL chat room at the time. I tried to forget the horrifying television-related terrors I had just witnessed. And I did finally fall asleep on the hospital bed, even though the sawdust had not evaporated the excess waste product as of yet. Or however sawdust works. I'm not even sure why they throw that on your throw up, but I don't want to be too icky right now because this is important. I had hoped that dozing off into dreamland and Mr. Sandman bringing me a dream would relieve me of what was unsettling me, but no. Instead, I had the worst nightmare I'd ever had. Global trauma played out before me. From history books. Pearl Harbor, Twin Towers, World War II, ancient Jewish men wearing sackcloth and rubbing ashes on their foreheads while proclaiming the end of the world as they knew it and not feeling fine. It was horrible. And finally, I ended up doing it. I woke up screaming. There was a voice in my head, and it demanded that I wake up right then and there. The Prophet Randy shed blood. He did not even attempt to cover it up in his shame. He did not visit the widow. He did not put away the idols in the hills, and followed in his father's footsteps. Let those who have eyes to see, see. Remember. The epitaph letters appeared in my dream, and I had the eyes to see them, and the ears to hear, and I believed. I understood that this vision was telling me that I had much to learn, and I had no choice but to take initiative. I woke up, and I got better, and was eventually released from the hospital. They gave me those long metal tubes that they sometimes give people with surrogate legs, and I learned how to use them, and I thought they were pretty cool. Kids in the park would call me Bionic Commando or Inspector Gadget or headstrong to take on anyone, which I assumed was a compliment. I studied a lot of books on ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, and before long I knew how to speak the stuff. I even flew out to Egypt and had fluent conversations with the natives, and I still hadn't come across the exact characters from the VHS tape. You know, perhaps they were a deep metaphor for something else that wasn't really hieroglyphic. Maybe I misremembered them. That could have been it. I have perfect photographic memory. I'd always be able to look into that photograph. So, listen, I lost the VHS tape a long time ago. Turnip Girl, or whatever her name was, her family claimed it as unpaid dowry, so they got custody rights. They eventually sold it to the black market, or so I hear. As that's a market that can't really be described, I can't tell you where the tape is today. I tried looking through Leave It to Beaver AOL bulletin board systems, and I couldn't find anything. Eventually, I just decided that they really weren't Egyptian hieroglyphic letters, and I was doing a Mormon mission in Egypt, pretending to be advancing the mythos of the golden plates. So, I should have been looking for clues about what the secret message meant, but there I was. I never found the secret decoder ring. To this day, I still don't know. Oh, shit, wait, I get it now. All of a sudden, it makes sense. You know that aftertaste that you sometimes get when you drink beer? I mean, no one actually drinks beer for the taste, right? Dilly dilly, all that. They drink it to get drunk. Maybe you're out with friends and you just order whatever the highest proof beer is to have a good time. And when you're drunk, your judgment's impaired and you say and do embarrassing things, but, your friends get a laugh. You get hungover. Perhaps I'd been drinking before the car crash. Oh, wait, that's not it. So I went back home to Provo, Utah. I lost my religion and I took up cocaine as a sport. I'd set up really, really lengthy lines in my room and snort them with a silly straw. Pro bono! I'd shriek as my battle cry. Now, I know what you're thinking. That couldn't be healthy. It wasn't. In fact, I died again, and this time from an exploded heart. Nothing we can do now about an exploded heart, the Apostle Peter explained. This time, you're boned. Boned? Boned? Wait a minute! Boned? Boned, said Peter, holding up a bone. Have you put it together yet, bonehead? No. That's right, Peter said back. Because you're a bonehead. So here I am now. I'm at the pearly gates, They allow beer in heaven and they sell it for $7 a pop. I don't know where the money goes, and that seems a little greedy to me, which seems to go against the supposed rules of the place. But hey, you know what's written in the book of Joshua about babies and stuff. Dudley Do-Right Pog Slammers, unopened Gushers fruit snack packages from the disco era. Ally McBeal, dancing, baby, all your bass. Here I am now, staring at the pearly gates. Those characters are staring at me, printed on the gates, and I still don't know why. In fact, since we're at the present now, instead of narrating this, I'm going to put you on speakerphone and let you listen to my current circumstances. 1 sec. Hey guys, I'm back. Oh man. Those letters, how nice. I still don't. Wait, I get it now. I do recognize those letters. They're from the newspaper. If I can just get a little closer and squint. Well, Martha, would you look at that? It's the guy who killed our daughter. Oh, hey, Rand Paul. Did you reveal the government's darkest, deepest secrets yet? That the real reptilian is you and your cold-blooded what? No. Wait. I can explain. You really thought you could murder our daughter and get away with it? You really thought we'd forgive you? Just because you lived a good Protestant life and quit drinking. You thought you could watch The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser, time and time again, find hidden secrets inside of a movie. But no, you can't escape the guilt. You killed Penelope. You killed Penelope. You killed Penelope. Who the fuck is Penelope? Ah, shit, Todd. Henry had a handlebar mustache. You mean wrong guy. Wrong guy, Todd. Wrong guy. Well, shit. Looks like we fucked up your life for no good reason. Those letters were just scrolling through Denny's place, smattered Penny Rowe when she was 7. We thought you knew that, and just trying to forget it. Anyway, welcome to hell. The end. Yeah, right. Just kidding. About the tape player being in the present and all that. Hope you like my voice sounds, though. They're my impressions of a tape recorder. Compliment them. Anyway, I'm in a mental hospital now where they treat me for psychosis. They feed me a steady diet of bread and water, and occasionally ice cream if I'm good. As it turns out, I did indeed claim their daughter in a drunk driving incident. The doctor claims that I'm trying to convince myself I'm somehow not at fault. I would argue that I'm in the right here because, after all, New Jersey is a no-fault state. But who's to say who's really at fault? If you've been paying attention, I was seduced at a yard sale while all I was looking for was a sweet deal on garden shears. And isn't that all we're really looking for out of life? Really a good deal? One might say that I perfected the art of the deal. Other than that, I manslaughtered the love of my life and her parents hate me, and I invented a fake television program in order to pin the blame on something entirely disconnected from me so that I didn't have to live with the guilt. 5 years had passed, and the doctors had decided that I was no longer a threat to society. For my half a decade of service, Nurse Ratched awarded me a plaque, as well as a set of golden earbuds and an iPod with some of my favorite songs preloaded. Ignoring the "this volume is so loud that it will likely shatter your eardrums" warning, I triumphantly walked out of the mental institution lobby, first floor hallways, entrance doors, as a Freeman, with a new lease on life. I was truly sorry for the sins of my past. My conscience was now clear. I was free to start over. Other than that, it's impossible to forget. Just possible to forgive. On my way out, I perused the parking lot and searched my parents' car, as I'd been notified that they would come and pick me up and take me back to the musty basement where I'd lived my 35.5 years of life. I'd live out the rest of my years set off from society, where the world would be safe from my patterns of thinking. Instead, as I turned my head around the corner, I saw my last. He took my eyes. He plucked them out. Beaver! Beaver Cleaver! With his cleaver! He leapt out of the shadows. Freddy! He exclaimed. As it turned out, that was the girl's name. The girl who I was arranged to get married to. Other than that, she never really wanted to marry me, but felt sorry for me because I was crazy and kept asking her out and then asking her to marry me, too. And I ordered combo meals off of her at Popeyes. I haven't even dated her once. I just wanted to marry her. Eddie. That's a pretty weird name for a girl.